Well, I want to thank everybody for coming out. I want to thank Chief Rahinsky and the Grand Rapids Police Department for agreeing to this forum today. Albert Smith once said that sympathetic imagination is the core of all humanity. And sympathetic imagination means sometimes you have to transcend your own human being and put yourself in the shoes of somebody else. And by doing that, we have advanced civilization for many years. There's been many laws, including Jim Crow laws and policies and gender bias policies that America has had to change over the years. I believe at this point in history, we are at a point in Grand Rapids that we have a policy that has to change. And that is why this open dialogue is here today. We're going to get a little more into that later. But I want to thank all of you for coming out. The majority of you know what this issue is. We've had 11 African-American children, innocent children, that have been handcuffed behind this policy. A lot of online information has people coming from the sidelines saying it's the community versus the police. I believe it's the community versus this policy, and we want to stop it before it becomes the community against the police, because we all have to coexist in this community for this community to, number one, be safe, for it to be fruitful, and to be the city that Grand Rapids is, the best city in the state of Michigan. With that said, once again, we're going to hand it back to the chief so we can have an opportunity to educate everybody on a few things, but at the same time that the police are going to be doing some education. We are here for the community to give the police a little education on how it feels to be on the other side of that badge.
I'm good, thank you. We want to recognize our elected officials who we appointed tonight, Commissioner Kelly, Commissioner Jones is joining us as well. Chief Manager Mark Washington, and so many important faces in this crowd that I don't want to start singling out people who you kind of want to get who don't appreciate your presence here. So that being said, Lieutenant Bilesman is going to walk us through the youth interaction policy. If you don't have a copy, raise your hand and we'll get you one before we start.
Now you might need this.
Good afternoon, everybody. Everybody hear me okay? Usually up in the microphone, so again, welcome. I'm John Miles. I'm the commander of the training unit. All I'm going to do is walk you through the policy. You should have a copy of it with you. If you don't, we have a couple people passing them out, so raise your hand and get it, and we'll get it to you if you need one. Give it just a minute. I'll just walk through the policy and anyone here, sir? Couple up front. We should be good. I'll get started. Grand Rapids Police Department recognizes the impact of its involvement with youth. While youth are afforded the same constitutional protections as adults, the Grand Rapids Police Department acknowledges and appreciates the need for additional protective measures while encountering youth. The goals of this policy: to recognize that youth are still in the stage of development and learning and may have already experienced trauma that is shaping their behavioral response. To recognize that the formal juvenile justice process should be avoided unless clearly indicated by the youth's behavior and unless alternatives do not exist. Our general orders or general procedures: officers shall take the following factors, if known, into consideration when interacting with youth, including but not limited to nature of the complaint or contact, including probability of possessing a weapon, age, intelligence, mental capacity, physical condition. Prior contacts / history with officers, likelihood to comply with parental control, cooperation and attitude of all parties, and the likelihood of all the offense being repeated, likelihood that the youth can be successfully referred to a supporting social service agency. And number two, when interacting with youthful offenders, officers should consider a wide range of alternatives and select the most reasonable
and the least restrictive alternative consistent with public safety, officer safety, maintenance of public order, department policy, and the rights of the youth, including but not limited to, and if you switch to the back side, a warning with no enforcement action taken, refer the youth and parent/guardian to a diversion program such as the bridge, headquarters, etc., a citation or municipal civil infractions and traffic citations, referral to family court in lieu of a custodial arrest with lodging at the Kent County Juvenile Detention. If a youth has been patted down, searched, or handcuffed, officers shall notify the youth's parents or guardian. The notification may be either in person or by telephone and shall be documented in the field interrogation or incident report, along with the identity of the parent or guardian who was notified. If the officer is unable to notify a parent or guardian, every attempt shall be documented in the field interrogation or incident report. When safe and under the totality of circumstances, officers shall consider a youth's age, whether known or objectively apparent to a reasonable officer, when determining whether or not to apply handcuffs or restraints. If during a preliminary investigation or contact it is determined that a youth is not a suspect, all efforts should be made to ensure the youth is not left unattended for the duration. These efforts shall be documented in the incident report and may include, but are not limited to, placing the youth with a non-offending parent or guardian, utilizing appropriate resources such as the Children's Protective Services or the Domestic Assault Response Team, otherwise known as DART, and assigning an officer to the youth when reasonable and practical. That is our Grand Rapids youth policy.
Thanks, John. I want to share with you very briefly how that policy came to be. It's only been in existence for about 6 months now. The 21st Century Policing Task Force, which is made up of equal representation of members of the community and members of the police department, drafted this as best practice. We presented it to the City Commission, and we've been training to it for about 6 months now. We've been training to it for about 6 months now. The biggest modification to this policy, or with the existence of this policy, is us continuing to emphasize officers using discretion. In the past, we've always trained to worst case scenario, how to safeguard both the community and the police. We're now encouraging officers to use their training, their experience, and their knowledge of the neighborhood, and look at the totality of circumstances before they decide to restrain by use of handcuffing a juvenile. This time I'm going to ask Captain Riley to join us for a moment or two to talk you through the internal affairs process. Thank you.
Good evening. Like the Chief said, I am Captain Riley. I'm the commander of the South Service Area, formerly the commander of the Internal Affairs Unit. I'll try to be brief. I will run you through some information about filing a complaint with the GRPD. That's done in the Internal Affairs Unit. The Internal Affairs Unit's responsibilities are to receive and promptly investigate all allegations of employee misconduct, to jointly investigate claims and civil suits brought against the GRPD in conjunction with the City Attorney's Office, maintain records regarding IU investigations in a secure area. So that's real important, something we hold near and dear to us. If you make a complaint against the police department, we want those records kept separate from the normal department reporting, police reports, in a secure area to protect people that are making complaints. We make available to the community the procedure for making a complaint. So you'll see this in the back of the room. If you have an organization, we will provide these to your organization so that you can pass them out to citizens. I know in the past we've kept those down at the Urban League, the NAACP office. Jeremy, I think you have those at your place down at Link. So. And finally, to review use of force and police pursuit reports. Remember, anytime an officer uses force at the GRPD, they have to write a special report. Those reports are reviewed almost in real time by several commanders, including the commander of the Internal Affairs Unit. How can a complaint be received? Complaints are taken in almost any form, including in person, by phone, email, through a third party, anonymously, and off-site. Obviously, if you make a complaint against the GRPD, you feel you have been wronged for some reason, and if you don't feel comfortable coming in the police department, I can totally understand that. That's why we take those complaints off-site. We will come to you and take your complaint. This is something that's really We've become more and more open about taking these complaints over the years. We'll pretty much take anything that you send forth, any concern. The process itself, remember, it starts in the internal affairs investigation. Early on, we'll try to resolve any instances where it's just a simple matter of explaining police procedure. Maybe the officers didn't necessarily do anything wrong. It's just a matter of explaining why they did, and sometimes we can resolve these things early on. An example of that would be what I often used to hear is the officer didn't read me my Miranda rights. Remember, you only need to be read your Miranda rights if you're being questioned about a crime. So, for instance, if you're being arrested on a warrant, the officer wouldn't read you your Miranda rights, so therefore there'd be no violation. So just little misconceptions like that, sometimes explained to people, we can resolve things right in the office there. Each complaint is assigned a number and tracked in the internal affairs system. So we have a record of everybody that called in every complaint. So my biggest fear as commander of the IAU is if somebody said, hey, what did you do with this person's complaint that came in 3 months ago? I want to have an answer for them, and I want to know exactly where it is in our process. The actual investigation itself is much like a criminal investigation. We will talk to witnesses, take physical evidence, get medical reports. We'll go out and canvass the scene and talk to neighbors. The witness statements include officers and the officer involved. Remember, we're a union shop, so the officer has certain rights according to the labor contract. So we have to honor those. But one important note I want to make in the officer's contract, and I'll read it verbatim here because I think it's important. When an employee provides false information during a Section 8 hearing, that's the hearing where they have to come in and explain themselves. During a Section 8 hearing which pertains materially to the nature of the complaint being investigated, the parties agree that such violation shall be considered proper cause for summary discharge. So in plain terms, what that means is if the officer lies in an internal investigation, even the union says we're not helping you, we're going to terminate you. So I think that's very important. These officers know when they get called into internal affairs, they better be telling the truth about what happened. The complaints are classified, 1, 2, and 3, 1 and 2 being the more serious complaints, and then 3 being minor complaints, for example, discourtesy. The disposition of the complaint, it's established through an investigation. We ask ourselves, did the alleged conduct occur? Was it a violation of policy or procedure? And was the identified officer responsible for the action in question? Key doctrines we use during this assessment are objectable reasonableness and totality of circumstances. So I could probably talk a whole day on just those items right there. And I think the chief might be mad I talk too much, but I got a little bit more. But that's the standard. It's what would a reasonable officer do given those same circumstances at that same time. The review of the disposition, when we have a disposition, several people look at it. It's not just the IAU investigator. It's reviewed by the chief of police, the labor relations director, a representative from the city attorney's office, and the chief itself. For investigations that involved a suspension or demotion, the city manager also takes a look at those and signs off on those. At the end of the complaint, the complainant is notified. We shoot for 60 days. We want these things to be resolved promptly. We think that's important. And any complaints that are can fall under the purview of the Civilian Appeal Board, those complainants are given a copy of the brochure with the disposition that's mailed to them. Now I mentioned the CAB, the Civilian Appeal Board. That's an appellate body. It's appointed by the commission and the mayor. They review the IAU cases in its entirety, and they can either affirm, reverse, or modify the internal investigation findings. So you've had your complaint looked at by the Internal Affairs Unit. If you're still not satisfied, you can go to the CAB and they can take another look at it. I'm often asked, how come people don't use the CAB as much? I think when you get a disposition from the Internal Affairs Unit and people see how comprehensive the investigation is, how much written documentation is given to you, even if we don't agree at the end of the day, I feel like people feel, okay, they've listened to me, maybe we don't agree, but they took this seriously. And then finally, one thing I'd like to add, 4 years ago, we started an early intervention system. What that means is that if an officer is involved in a certain threshold of use of force or citizen complaints, it triggers an alert that goes to the unit commander and the chief, and then the unit commander will look at all those complaints or all those uses of force to see if we have a problem because that officer was involved in so many of those incidents. Thank you.
So please, if you don't have our brochure, please take one when you leave. If you don't need the information now, we'd appreciate you having it for future reference. Before I turn it over to Commissioner Womack for the reason you're all here, which is to be heard, when the Commissioner and I spoke, we thought it would be best if there were a couple of things that were stated and understood. First being, we've got a good crowd here, so in an effort to have everyone heard and out the door at a reasonable time, we were looking to try to keep comments to about a minute or so. And we were also looking to, if your question or comment deals with a specific incident that you had, you were pulled over for speeding and you didn't think it was fair, instead of sharing that with everyone, I'd ask you to contact me tomorrow morning if you have that type of complaint. We're really here to discuss our youth interaction, the policy that's been shared with you, the internal affairs component, and as a police department, how we can continue to grow and improve in terms of dealing with youth and instilling trust between the community and the police department.
Once again, I want to thank everybody for attending this because there couldn't be anything more serious than our future, and that's our youth. I want to start off by putting a face to this situation. By starting off with some of the parents and their children. First, we have one parent who has a engagement that was already set in stone many months before today. So I'm going to ask Juanita and one of the twins to come up so that we could just hear a little bit from a mother how she felt when her innocent child was put in handcuffs after a call to the Grand Rapids Police Department as they were responding. And she will have 2 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Juanita. This is one of my twins, Martrell. He's 11. And on the 26th of August, he was walking in his community and was stopped by the police, treated like an adult, walked backwards, handcuffed, put in the back of the police car with cuffs on. For a call about a BB gun, but the media didn't put out it was a BB gun. The police didn't put out it was a BB gun. They made it like it was a real gun. But they didn't find anything. My boys was treated horrible. I'm dealing with this daily. One of my boys at his championship football game, and I'm missing that because I wanted at least one of my sons to know that it is people in the community that care. And I just really want to know if the chief could tell all these people that's in here, on the news you said multiple times in one of your conferences that you reached out to the mother of the twins. I want you to tell all these people that you reached out to me because the media knew how to find me. Other people knew how to find me. I'm trying to figure out how the chief of police didn't know how to find me. It's a trust thing. So for you to tell the community that you reached out to me, and I know I'm not that hard to find.
So first, I want to thank you for being here. Appreciate the sacrifice you made in not attending your son's game. Secondly, how important it is to hear from both you and your son. When we reached out to you, Lieutenant Chad McCursey from the Internal Affairs Unit gave you a phone call. So when I say we reached out or I reached out, I'm speaking on behalf of the Grand Rapids Police Department. We're an organization that employs 400 people. So if you hear me say that I or we reached out to the individual, it doesn't necessarily mean that the phone call was made personally by me. It could have been made by a deputy chief, by a captain or a lieutenant in charge of the Internal Affairs Unit. In that instance, that's what happened. Lieutenant Chad McCursey from Internal Affairs phoned you, and as is well within your rights. You chose not to speak to him, and you referred him to, that you would be seeking legal redress. So,
That's why I got it. Still standing in front of the community, and you are not telling the truth. Because when you made that comment, I had not even heard back from internal affairs. When you did your conference about 3 days after the incident, so that is not true. Like, you need to be, if this is trust and we trying to bring the community together, you want me to teach my child that I need to trust you, then you need to be honest, and it needs to start with me, because my child has to grow up in the community, and all these other kids have to grow up.
did the Internal Affairs not phone you, ma'am?
Internal Affairs did phone
Yes.
me.
And-
I reached out to them.
Right, and you chose not to continue that conversation at a certain point, and that's what was shared with me.
No, I did not.
Okay. So,
Okay, I'm gonna thank,
We need the truth.
okay.
Okay,
So,
okay.
let me share. Anytime we're involved with someone and they invoke the fact that they've retained the services of an attorney, at that point, the conversation shifts from the police department to legal affairs. So, any,
Walking away and she still feel like she ain't got her voice. Like, this is ridiculous.
hold on. Hold on. Is there anything else you want to say, Juanita, right quick before you get to your game?
I want the chief to tell the truth. You did not, but you made it seem to the media in your conference. You stated 3 or 4 times. I watched the conference multiple times that you reached out to me and I didn't want to reach back. You made it like I was that angry person. I was not angry at the time, but I need to teach my children to trust the officers and the community, but you are the head. You're the top. These are your officers. If I know personally that you did not reach out to me, you even told media that you all set up an event for my children and I wouldn't let them go. Let's be real. Let's get to the bottom of it. That can't.
all right, so stay here while I answer your question. So in the future, please don't walk away. I want to talk to you. So in the future, when I say me or we, I'll make sure I'm more clear. If I gave you or anyone in the community the impression that you and I did not have a conversation, then I misled them. You and Internal Affairs, a representative of me and a representative of the Grand Rapids Police Department had a conversation. And the way that conversation was understood by the lieutenant from Internal Affairs was that you wanted legal recourse. And if that was the case, then I can understand that and I respect that. But you have to also recognize that if that then puts us in a position of referring any future conversations through the city attorney. So I apologize if anything I said was misconstrued, either on behalf of you or your child, or from the community. When I say myself or the Grand Rapids Police Department, I'll make sure that I'm more cautious in the future in terms of identifying whether it's me individually or we collectively being a representative of the department. I'm sorry?
With the tensions in this community, why wasn't it you individually?
Because we have Internal Affairs that tape recorded conversations and they do the investigation. It makes it difficult if we have a conversation for 20 minutes and then I have to relay that conversation to the investigator.
Just on the face of trust, like, it seemed like the chief would want to talk to the parent.
Sure. And I do, which is why you'll see I generally have open office hours and why I'm here tonight. But so, sure, I think we're going to have a difference of opinion, so I'll share with you our perspective, and then I'll hand the microphone over. It was relayed to me that you had mentioned an attorney and wanting to speak to an attorney. As I've stated, when you're working with the Grand Rapids, with the city of Grand Rapids, and you involve an attorney, we need to involve our attorney. So any confusion that may have arisen out of that, I'll take the blame for.
I understand when I stated anything about an attorney, but that was weeks after. That was already weeks after. I went on the news and asked for an apology. And that was the question towards you. The mother asked for an apology. Why haven't she got it? You stated that you reached out. Your officers know when I filed the complaint the day after, on the 27th, I filed the complaint. And the chief took the complaint and he told me he would call me in 2 days. Well, the lieutenant, he told me he would call me in 2 days. I did not hear from him until maybe a week or so after. And when I heard from him, we spoke briefly. I didn't tell him it was all about me having an attorney or anything, because I didn't even have legal representation at the time. So that's not true. Um, the bottom line is nobody reached out to me. When I did get something from IA, of course it was, they found the officers to do nothing wrong. I asked for the recordings of the videos and the recorded call. I still haven't got that. I was reached out to by the records unit. So they reached out to me and asked me, did I still want it, because the video had been released, but it had not been fully released. So yes, I did still want it. It was all a back and forth, a tag team thing. Did I really want it? Yes, I do, because you all didn't release everything to the public.
No, you're right, we redacted portions of it that were.
Of the video, yeah, of the video, and like now people, it's on social media, it's national news, and they're only seeing the parts that you all wanted released. I still the mother, now it's trying to make a financial bearing. I can pay to have those records released, why they just can't be released to the public? If you defending the officer and saying nothing was done wrong.
Okay.
But bottom line, I feel like you said you reached out to me and you didn't, and another officer said the same thing, and that's what was said. It wasn't anything dealing with attorney or anything. So if I can't trust you, I can't teach my child to trust you.
So, again, with apologies, if any confusion arose from the conversations, then I'll take responsibility for that, and in the future, moving forward, I'll make sure that's clarified. So, again, thank you for being here. Your voice means a lot to us.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Juanita. And thank you for being here. Let's talk about this issue a little bit as we start. This issue has been going on for a couple of years, and it's continued. And I've sat in the background and watched it and did what I could do from behind the scenes and supported everybody on the forefront of this. We're at a point now where this policy has to change. And that means we're going to have to hear from a lot of you today before 6:30 when this comes to an end. So some of these testimonies are going to be very emotional. But to move on so we can hear from all of you and some of the decision makers in this city, I will sometime have to come up and ask you, can we move on? But I definitely am glad that we listened to the audience and got that story out, because there's a lot more to it than what we heard, and got a chance to get some responses. We're going to bring the next family up. It is a 2-minute flat line, and that is because we have to get something done with this policy. And we're going to need to hear from all of you out here. We're going to hear from some of our elected officials on why they're here today. So let me bring up the next family, the Wooten family, and you will have 2 minutes. And I mean, I have to turn off mics because I have to get through this.
Okay, I'm not here for no publicity stunt, first of all. First of all, I'm at work working 12 hours a day to make sure my mom, with her disability and everything, can support her and her grandbabies, and my sister at her house. When I get a call at work saying the GRPD is kicking down her door and they won't let her out of the car because she's having an asthma attack in the police car, and I got my twin and my little brother cussing me out saying Mom is dying, what am I supposed to do at work? And no, I don't have nothing against GRPD. I know a couple officers that's really great officers. So don't make it seem like I'm against GRPD. All I'm saying is, why would you walk my 12-year-old niece out of the house and put a 12-gauge shotgun to the back of her head and tell her if she moves, you're going to kill her? My niece is on the phone. I got all this recorded. I have other people at my job who's standing there listening to my phone on voice, on loud mode, so they can hear all this. and they're saying, hey, we're going to kill you if you move. So my niece like, Uncle Fat, I don't want to die today. Uncle Fat, can you come over here? Where you at, Uncle Fat? They going to kill us. Granny sick, Granny dying in the police car. Only thing that I ask is this here. Give justice. A 12-year-old young lady, she don't know nothing about no guns. We never had guns around her. She never seen excuse my language, she never seen a gun or nothing. Oh, she's a straight A student. So when you put a 12-gauge shotgun up to her head and tell her, if she move, you're going to kill her, what is she supposed to do? She crying on the phone to me. And her little brother right here, he comes out, he's so jolly, he don't know what's going on. So he runs out the door like, look, if you touch my sister, I'm ready to fight. Look, he's 10 years old. He don't know nothing about life. All I say is, I just want justice. Hey, don't do that to no 12-year-old female. That's all I have to say. I have nothing else to say. Thank you. That's all I have to say, man.
I want to thank the media for being here covering it, and I want to thank Michael Buxton for broadcasting it to our youth. He has a major following, so some of our youth that can't be here will be able to listen. I want to thank Reverend Smith for being here, who represents Messiah Church, and welcome him to Grand Rapids, Michigan. Jerry Bishop, who's always been on the forefront when it comes to helping our youth. At this point, before we go right into public comment, we're going to hear a minute or two from each one of our commissioners. We're also going to hear from Jeremy DeRue from Link, who has been on the forefront of this with us when it comes to sticking up for our youth. Is there any more families here or children that had been handcuffed? Okay, we will move on to Commissioner Ruth Kelly. We have Ruth Kelly, Commissioner Kelly, and Commissioner Jones. And they're here because it did happen in their city wards, 2nd Ward.
Thank you, Commissioner Womack. And I just wanted to, again, say my thanks to all of you for coming today, because this is a day for us to listen. Most of you know that we have been on the path now pretty seriously for the last, I'd say, 3 years, with a number of plans. Many of those were brought to us by this community, the 12-point plan. And we will continue on that path. We're working with a group called 21st Century CP, which is all about community policing, and brought in experts here, not because we're under a consent decree, but because we want to do the best that we can for this community. So today was important to listen. I'm a former educator. I see one of my former principals in the audience, as a matter of fact. So my heart goes out to young people. I once taught 12-year-olds, 6th graders, and I know that when they come to school with trauma, it affects how they are able to learn. So we want to do everything that we can to hear you today, and that's really why we are here.
Thank you, Commissioner. My name is Joe Jones. I serve as a 2nd Ward City Commissioner here in Grand Rapids. I also serve as the President and CEO of the Urban League of West Michigan, and I want to thank Commissioner Womack for his efforts in pulling this together in concert with the Chief. And my comments, actually my remarks, what I want to do is I want to frame this situation up for you. I want to put something out there that I hope we will spend some time thinking about and hopefully have answers to, and that is what is not being talked about, what's not being talked about enough, is the fact that we have a very tense situation in our community, in that we have a number of guns that are in the streets that are illegal. And we have I think it's fair to say that the role of the police department is to do everything they can to get guns off the street. The tension arises when they do what I just said, when they sometimes do whatever it takes to get guns off the street. And so the question becomes, what are some of the opportunities or some of the ways in which the community can engage in helping to get guns off the street? I say that because we can expect tensions to continue to rise, because you have in community, when you think about the community, when you think about the neighborhoods that we live in, you think about folks who whether it's in the urban core, whether it's all throughout the city. We have folks who don't want to have guns in the streets. And we have, even us, I believe, in this room, don't want to have that. And yet, they're out there. And so it's a big problem because it's not as if they just showed up. I'm going to let this sink in for a second. It's not as if they just showed up. And so the question becomes, how can we, as a community, look to address that issue? Because my thought is, and my hope is, you know, I believe that a community should dictate how it wants to be policed. Amen? Amen. And so when it comes to that, I think we have an opportunity to do just that. We can dictate how we want to be policed based on our efforts to engage in a very, very serious issue. I want to give shout out to guys like Victor Williams, who have come up with very, very sound and very wise approaches of looking to do some sort of trade or buyback for a gun. But we're going to have to find ways in which we can address this issue because it's serious, and I would much rather us in this room look to work together to remove guns off the street than to have to depend on our police department. Not because I don't have belief in the police department being able to do it. I just think this is something that we as a community can do. So thank you.
I understand before we started, it said 5:10 that this got started and we were going to stay focused on the issue pertaining to the children. And we just said that we wasn't going to do anything about the adults being stopped or anything pertaining to the adults. But it seemed as if what you all talking about is totally different than what we're here for. And also, I'd like to say, if that is the case from what he just said, how in the heck does a 12-year-old get a shotgun put to their head? Because, see, that's an adult situation. That child did not have no gun. So
Okay.
where does that fact come from? Because, see, you throwing it off and then again, you wasting time.
All right.
We don't
Thank
need
you.
to discuss
Thank you.
Who's here, who's who, and what's what. Let's talk about the issue at hand right now.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you very much. Let me tell you, but just like I had to stop him from talking because he had his 2 minutes, if I give this mic to anyone and anyone wants to talk for 5 minutes, a half hour, we are not going to get through this. Once I hear that you got your point out and that the audience can react to your point, I will have to move. And like I told everybody, that is nothing personal to anybody. Some of you, I'm going to stop you in the middle of some very emotional testimonies. But we have to give everybody, as many people as we can, a chance to talk. So thank you very much. Jeremy, you have your 1 minute. It's been moved from 2 to 1.
All right. I think in many ways what I feel is happening here is what's happened repeatedly over the last years, where people from the community are brave enough to come out and share their story and say what's happening to them and share their experiences, and what they're expressing is not heard on the other side and resulted in change moving forward. Even the youth interaction policy that's sitting here before us today, it still doesn't define what a youth is. It doesn't say how old you need to be, and then we act surprised why months after this puts in place, we still have to come back and have conversations asking, why is it that a 12-year-old has a gun pointed at them and ends up in handcuffs? When we have not yet said, stop pointing guns at 12-year-olds, right? And the community keeps saying, stop treating children like they're adults, and let's make sure we have policies where after it happens, officers can't come back and say, we were following the policies and procedure of this department. And again, I think if you're like me, you can look at the words of this paper and read it 4 times and say, wait, what does that say? Right? And we need to have clarity over how we want to treat our children, how we want our children treated in a way that creates and ensures safety for everybody. And we've heard repeatedly over the last, and I've only been involved with this really significantly for 5 years or so now. There's people in the room that have been having these conversations far longer than I have. But throughout that time, we keep saying, we need to stop acting this way towards our children. We say we need to stop acting this way a whole lot. And then when things happen to the children, we all say, this is way too far. Right? That's why so many people are in this room right now on a Sunday, because this is now the 4th time that we've had an issue with children ending up in handcuffs when the children did nothing wrong, when the children complied with every officer's instruction they were given, and were not in any way threatening any officers, they still end up treating like they're criminals.
All right, all right. We're gonna move to public. You can walk right up right now for public comment. Can you go to the mic? Can you go to the microphone? Okay, thank you. There's not a mic there. Let us put this microphone back. And I'll tell you one thing I gotta say before we start this. We are here representing our children, and we need to represent them in the most prestigious way possible. Today, we're not speaking just for ourselves. Today, we're put on the news because we let the emotion get the best of us, and everybody forgets the point about this policy and moving forward. If we steal this moment from our children, we should never be forgiven about that. Now, I understand the parents and the family members. I even understand the community, because these parents, that's their children. Nothing's more precious than your child. You will run into a burning house to protect your child. So I understand that the parents have every right to express to the fullest from their intellect, their emotion, and their experience from this horrific situation. But I am asking this community to represent our children and understand if we overtalk each other, if we play these games, we will be on the news once again. I'm part of this community, so anything I tell you is out of love. And I'm also radio, so I watch the media. I know how they do. I've been trained in this for 20 years. Thank you. Let's get together with our. With our. And I called this meeting because I knew it was time for that. But oh no, that's why I brought you here today. But once again, like I said, we can act a fool. I've seen it for 2 years, but now it's about the kids.
All I wanted to say is if this is the fourth incident where we're internationally known for doing this, when is the police department going to change? Do you like being on the news all over the country? Chief, Rob, move out the way so I can look at it. You want to be on the news? Whoever is consulting with you and telling you guys how to do it, they're telling you wrong. And that's why we're here, not for somebody to read no paper to us, but to deal with the decision, the people who make the decisions on how they're going to police us. And you keep getting the same old people. And it's time for change. And that's why we're here, because we don't want it to continue. I don't want people to want to reach out to me because I'm from Grand Rapids and y'all got a police department problem.
Thank you very, very much, Dana. And thank you for your efforts on Facebook to help us bring out the community with your organization.
I have a couple questions. At what age do our children stop being children? We already know what and why. Now, how are we going to get through it? We continuously say we're going to get through something, but we can't get through anything when the Gramps Police Department continues to have discriminatory practices. Grand Rapids Police, they fear our children for what reason, I don't know, but there should never be a child in the hallway, a parent in the hallway, and somebody trying to console that parent. Jeremy, you do not represent my community. Every other word was children. Say it like it is. You pull guns on black children. You have no chill when it comes to our children. We will stop and we will stand down when you stop. But all this marching and repetitive talking and all this game facing and all this bought and paid for, everybody ain't for sale, and we don't even feel safe. Guns are everywhere. not just in the black community, but the black community takes the consequences of the reality of what the media puts out there. So I'm not going to accept anything you saying. You don't represent me. None of y'all do. You need to be saying, how do we fix it? Because every 2 months there's a problem, and every 2 months we gonna march, and every 2 months somebody fall in protocol. Make your mind up, all right? Our kids matter too. Our black children matter too.
Thank you.
I want to respond to your policy because policy drive outcomes. You say you recognize the impact of our youth. There's disparate impact going on here in Grand Rapids as relates to the black youth. You're bound by, I would think, compelled by law to make compliances and adjustments. If you're doing a racial equity lens in this, you have disproportionality and disparate impact going on here, and that's inferred in your policy. So the truth is that the disparate impact and disproportionality speaks to a racial tone to your policy. It's driving these outcomes. So getting back to the policy, you have the rights and you have the power to adjust with a racial equity lens based on the fact that your present policy is driving these outcomes and imposing oppression on these youth, and not to speak to the trauma. So when part of this policy, when you want to do a callback after you've traumatized a child, where's the reference to a social worker or a therapist? So it is a well-rounded policy. So that's what I want to speak to, disparate impact and disproportionality, because you are part of the Grand Rapids City Racial Equity Plan. So there's some elements there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Next.
All right, I'm official Von Ruff, Chief. I'm from Holland. I deal with things like this all the time. All right. So with this policy is a few things that I highlighted, like experiencing trauma. If you know kids are experiencing trauma, you're causing the trauma. Like the gentleman said, why are you guys not fixing the trauma afterwards after you caused it? You should be paying for it, not the insurance companies. Second, I like what you said. I forgot what it was, but I remember it was a key thing, just a lot going on. I deal with trauma. I got it. That's why I'm here. I represent the community, the kids, and everything. That's my main focus. I feel like you all need to let us protect our communities. And that's black individuals in our black community. We don't need white officers there. If there's an issue, maybe you need more crime city neighborhood watchers or something to make a phone call, and the police need to call that head of neighborhood watch to say, hey, we got this going on in your community. Can you guys get together and get that together and fix it? Maybe that needs to happen or something. But guns to a girl's head, that's very disrespectful. You guys are not it without a badge and a gun, because I bet you want to fight that little girl's daddy one-on-one. For her. That's the representative for that little girl, is the father. Then if the father's not around, it's the mother. Who the mother, if she got a brother, she'll go get her brother, which is the uncle.
10 seconds.
I'm not close to 2 minutes yet. I'm very good at timing, in my mind. So, back to you, Chief. Because Robert S. is paid right now. Back to you all. So, you all need to get together, and I would get with you all. I would come and meet with you all. I speak for the kids in the community. Whenever you got time, we can set up a date today, and we can make something happen.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We can do that right now.
No, sir.
I just have a question, just referencing the youth policy, is what could she have done differently that would have resulted in her not being handcuffed? That's what we want to know as parents, as a grandmother. I don't want my grandchildren to start calling me when they get of age saying, you know, Grandma, I was handcuffed today. It's becoming a norm. And you guys have to understand, well, we have to understand as a community that our children, they are going to be scared of you guys, the police, just because it's a generational thing. So when you have a generational thing going on, we as young people are trying to tell our children that, okay, the police is here to protect us, from harm, but then you guys are causing this 12-year-old young lady, as she grows up, that's affecting her psychologically, regardless if you guys understand it or not. And we as parents have to deal with that. We as the community have to deal with that. So my question is, what could she have done differently? Because she followed all his demands, all his requests, and she still was handcuffed. So that's my question.
Thank you.
Hello, I have a statement. My statement is this. I have a 12-year-old right here. He's 11. He'll be 12 in January. Look at them. Now, doesn't he look like a 12, 11-year-old? How would that impact him if you guys pulled a gun out on him? And then you speak and say about giving out our guns. I'm not giving you nothing. I'm going to keep my gun. For the simple fact, because there's stuff like this that's going on out here. My son is not protected. And he told me just 2 days ago, he said, Mama, I wanted to be a police officer. I was grooming him to be one of you guys. But now, what do you want to be, Ju? Tell him.
A doctor.
He don't want to be a police officer anymore. Because he's scared of you guys. I'm scared too. And I know I've never been to jail in my life. I look through my rearview mirror all the time. I'm like, oh shit, excuse me. Excuse me. I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm scared. Every time a police officer get behind me, I get scared. Because I don't know what's going to happen. Okay, and so, and although I've never been committed of a crime, I don't have any felonies or anything like that, but you guys scare me. And now my future is at risk. This is my future right here. Y'all take a good look at him. His name is Julius. I'd be damned if you guys come after him. He's a good boy. All right, thank you.
I'm back up here with my nephew right here in Little John, which is 10 years old, which was one of the individuals that was in the situation when it happened. My niece wanted to be a police officer just like she said. But now, me as an individual, yeah, I've been to jail before. I've been to prison before. I don't took counseling. I don't talk to psychiatrists and everything and got myself together. But now, as of today, my niece is afraid every time she sees the bright light. My question to y'all is, what are y'all going to do about this? Because my niece, she's been out of school for a whole 2 weeks. Because every time she sees the light, she's jumping scared because she's talking about uncle, somebody gonna kill me. Mama, somebody gonna kill me. Dad, somebody gonna kill me. And my mother has an asthma attack in the police car and you tell my mother, no, you can't go in there and we're not going to go in there and get your breathing machine. Hold on, she's type 2 diabetic, asthmatic, and she gave you permission to go in the house and do whatever you wanted to do in the house. But you mean to tell me when she goes into an asthma attack, you mean to tell me we can't go in there and get your inhaler? We can't make sure you're okay? Come on now, I got a 12-year-old niece calling me at work. I'm working 12 hours a day, and my sister working 8 hours a day, and their dad's working another 12 hours a day. You got 3 people working damn near 40 hours a week, excuse my language, 40 hours a day to make sure that they're okay, and then you tell me I can't give you a breathing treatment because somebody said, why didn't y'all never trace the phone call back to see who made the phone call?
10 seconds, sir.
I know my timing. No, I got 30 seconds to be exact if you want to count them. I know timing too. But all I ask is, why didn't y'all track the phone call back and see where the phone call came back? Why y'all run up in there and she walked out with her hands up like this here? And then y'all take my other niece and say she fit the description. Y'all put guns up to both of their heads. And the only thing y'all can say is, oh, you fit the description.
Thank you.
Now. What are y'all going to do?
Thank you, sir.
Do something about it. Come on now. We can't keep getting shotguns up to our head because sooner or later one of you officers is going to shoot. Period. One of you officers is going to shoot, and then what?
Thank
this
you.
Little boy right here gotta be dead because one of your officers made a mistake. Come on, man.
Thank
Do something about that shit.
Thank you.
Do something about it. Come on, listen. They want to be police officers. They want to go to school and be where you at. But y'all not making no perfect example. What y'all doing is scarring these kids.
Let's let the next speaker talk. Thank you.
I think what I hear from a lot of people that's coming up on this mic is that we need accountability. A lot of the times you guys say, oh, well, we work everything out from this extent with IA, Internal Affairs. Yet when I call Internal Affairs to report something, I get laughed at. So there's something that's not in place within these policies that's holding everybody accountable, not just the people on the field, not just you, not everybody, not just the children who are being frisked. Everybody, the police officers need to be held accountable. And then we get a meeting here and we get 30 minutes to speak, but yet there's all these people in chairs who have a voice, who have a story, who have something meaningful that needs to be put out here that can help you guys, that can bring this change, but yet you guys only give us 30 minutes to speak. That says a lot to how much you guys actually care about what we have to say. But then you guys give 40 minutes to you guys whose voices I'm sure are heard multiple times, because you guys are some of the facets that help to move this city. You guys get more time than the people that don't have a voice regularly. So there's an imbalance. Also, in the policy, these reasonably discretioned policies that you guys put in place, before you do anything else, you say when safe, but that's so loosely termed that I didn't feel safe coming into the police department today. I did not feel safe. I never feel safe. As soon as I see those lights, or as soon as I see a car, or as soon as I see an officer, and my skin isn't even as dark as these children who have had guns put to the back of their heads. So imagine how they feel. Oh wait, you can't, because you haven't lived it. Maybe from a police point, but from an innocent civilian standpoint, take that badge off for a minute. Do you have a child? What would you do? What would you do if your child had a gun put to her head? Would you shoot first, ask questions later?
10 seconds.
I don't think I have anything else to say.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Shirley. One of my questions is when the officers start boot camp or whenever they start, don't they have a self-defense class? Like dealing with 11 or 12-year-old, don't they know how to catch them and hold them without handcuff them? And just like the lady said, someone called and made a false accusation. I had this going on last couple of weeks. They claimed my neighbor called. Is that perjury for whoever called? How can you get the record of what a police officer called? They said the music too loud. They bought 6 cruisers. A false person called, like they did that lady about her child. So who is these people calling? Or is it just the officer just riding down, seeing a group of people, black people, having a nice time? Let's stop and see, because like I said, I've been living in my home for 30 years. My neighbors and I, we don't go hang at the bars. 9 out of 10, they like turn the music up. So for them to do that and use that for an excuse, I know it's a different subject for the child, but that was one of my main questions. If these officers was in boot camp, had training self-defense, if I don't even have self-defense, but I know how to catch a 12-year-old without putting. And this is my last thing, not to do with the police officer. The lady here to the right, when you got up and made that smart comment, sometimes things you say to people or the way you say it, you'll cause them to get upset. I don't know you and you don't know me, so thank you. Yeah, but I'm saying the way you said it, how, like, when you walk.
You need the mic though. I got some questions.
All right, let's go ahead and
Can you get the chief the mic though? All right, a few questions. How many police do y'all have in your force?
295.
How many is African American?
15% or so.
So can you give me the numbers on that?
So roughly,
So about 25, 30?
our diversity within the police department roughly mirrors that of the community.
So if it's,
I'm sorry, the question was regarding our minority hires. So we've got 295 sworn and 100 civilian.
Our most recent classes have had more diversity than we have in the past. Having said that, we've got about 15, 16, 17%.
So out of 290, maybe 40 African American. So the problem,
Okay, can we separate? Can we separate? She can, okay. Yeah, because she can sit, yeah, she can sit somewhere else if, all right, let's let Mike continue his question.
so out of the 290, maybe we got 30, 40 black officers, right? Give or take. 20, give or take. What I'm saying is, I've been in the neighborhood my whole life. We don't see them black officers. They don't come to the neighborhood. We get the white Caucasians from Rockford, from Jenison, from here, that they never seen us. So when they do see us, they pull the guns first because they think our normal demeanor is aggression. It's not aggression. Come around the community. The officers used to come and talk back in the day. We don't see that. You don't see the officers knowing the neighborhood people. We don't see that. But it's like, this is a little girl. There she go back there. Little girl was crying in the hallway. The one y'all put the 12 gauge on. And my question is, when did male officers start dealing with women? That's not your policy. A male officer shouldn't pat a female down, shouldn't handcuff a female, but we see it every day. A male officer will jump out on a female so fast and snatch her up and put her in the back of a police car. I be in the inner city. I do so much for the community, it's crazy. They know me, they don't know you. You see what I'm saying? So if you start back coming to the community, you get the African American officers to back policing the neighborhood, and you get to knowing the community people, stuff can change. You never pull a gun out first. Y'all got tasers. Y'all got all type of other stuff. She don't look like a 12-year-old girl. There she go right there in the gray jogging suit. She don't look like a 12-year-old. Put a 12 gauge out on her. That's crazy. For real. So my whole thing is like, look, yeah, I talked to her outside in the hallway. She couldn't even talk. So it's like people, we talking about the adults. It's not about us no more. It's about these kids. It's about these babies. We got to change that. You know, you don't want kids coming up, growing up and be scared. And that's what's happening in the community. So now you're going to have some other kids that's scared, that's black, that don't care about the police. And then you got a problem. Fix it before it happened. You know what I'm saying? We can fix it now. That's what we need to do. But if y'all ain't here to listen to us, and when you get 10, 20 minutes, it's never going to happen. Ever. We all got so much more to say. I'm not going to stay up here all day. But y'all need to change your policy, internal affair policy. I done had a problem with the police. I went to internal affairs. You know what they said? Oh, Mr. Buxton, you got a pass from back in the 90s. The hell with my pass. I'm talking about now. You see what I'm saying? So you go off a person pass first. You shouldn't do that. I just had a problem with one of y'all sergeants, Farrell, whatever his name is. I rented you guys' event, the FBOP. Y'all didn't want us there. I felt there was racism because we was black and we was renting one of y'all event spaces. We shouldn't have that. Everything should be fair in the community for everybody, right? No?
10 seconds.
No? I'm talking to you, Chief.
All right.
You lost,
right,
man. It's cool. Don't worry about it. You lost.
Right.
Hey, look. If nobody got the community, though, we got them. You know what I'm saying?
Next speaker. Next speaker. Next speaker.
Hello, everybody. I'm the third youngest big sister of Martrell and Martrez, the two young boys that was handcuffed. I went down to what happened, and I asked the officer, I said, what if your child was in this situation? What would you do? He told me my kids aren't trouble kids, so they wouldn't be in this situation. And I just I stopped and didn't know what to say after that because I wouldn't think an officer would say that. And another problem is one of the officers was like, he was crying so bad, we couldn't even get his name up out of him. Of course he would cry because he has fear. He isn't fearing of you guys, but he's in fear of the gun that's in the back of his head. And he was scared that he would get shot because he never been in a situation like that. So I don't know, like, is that a problem that he said that to me, or should I just leave it alone? Like, is there a problem?
If I take as much time answering every person, so I've got open office hours. I'm also going to give out my cell number, which I do regularly. Can you answer the little girl? Sure. So my cell number, which I've given out with frequency, and the open office hours, which I hold, my cell number is 558-1774. I don't want to give her, she deserves more than a flippant answer. She deserves me to sit down with her. No, she deserves my undivided attention, and she deserves to be heard by an adult who doesn't give her
a yes
a
or
quick
no
response.
answer now?
No, I'd much rather sit down with you and learn all the circumstances and give you an answer worthy of your time. So I appreciate you being here. And again, as I said at the beginning of this meeting, this is the continuation of a dialogue. It's certainly not going to be the end of one. Thank you.
All right, and I just want to remind everybody too, when it comes to those four-letter words, that we do have children in here today. So just like we want the police to respect our children, we got to make sure we respect them ourselves too. So please monitor your language, and I know it's an emotional situation. Thank you.
Okay, my question to the chief is, if you're afraid of a 12-year-old, you should not be a police officer. I would turn in my badge. Anytime I can't contain a 12-year-old, I shouldn't be a police officer. If a teacher touches a child, her job is over. My question to the city manager is that when the public has mistrust, I want the police chief to resign. I'm asking for your resignation. This is the 4th incident, and it's been under you. I've been noticing it. If you're from North Carolina, you can take that back to North Carolina. Honey, you're in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and we're going to show you we love our children. You might not think they're anything, but they're everything to us. Because in Grand Rapids, I see doctors, I see teachers, I see ministers. We love our children. So whatever you think about them, throw it out your head, because we love our children. They are our future. And I want to ask, what happened to the lady who called on the 12-year-old girl? What are you guys doing with her? Because these people are going to get somebody hurt. What do you do with an infant? Is he handcuffed too? I have a 5-year-old granddaughter who was afraid to go to school because of your officers. When she see them in the back, she's screaming, "Grandma, they're coming for us." I said, "Honey, they got to go through me to get to you." Because I love my grandchild. And my question is, if you're afraid of a 12-year-old, you should not be a police officer. Get out.
Thank you. Next.
My question is about the policy. You know, maybe if you guys need help, maybe you guys can adopt a policy from some of these rural areas where it's not happening at, like Jenison, East Grand Rapids, Paw Paw. You know, maybe you guys can talk to them and see what they're doing about their kids. I don't know if they have the same racial or black or white, whatever it is, but they handling their kids. So if you can talk to those rural areas, that is not happening. That the same guns are there. They have guns hidden. They some legal and some not. Some can take them away or whatever. Maybe you guys can get with them and see what they're doing while they're not being on the news all the time about their kids. So I'm saying all kids. That's all.
Thank you.
I'm here today as a mother. I just wrote down a couple of points, and I was wondering, is it really policy or protocol to handcuff innocent people? It's not healthy to have our kids feeling comfortable in handcuffs. And I think that's something that, you know, would scare children. And I would not want my kids feeling comfortably feeling that, you know, handcuffing them is okay or the norm. And I also had wrote down that, you know, when allegations are made, you know, we look at the police as people who are supposed to be here to protect and serve our community. And our community is the adults plus our children. Our police are supposed to seek out the truth. They're supposed to look for evidence about allegations. And I was wondering, even in this circumstance, was there evidence of a struggle? You know, was there bullet shells or blood on the porch that would warrant somebody to go in and bring the family out with guns drawn on this child? I don't know them personally, but, you know, aren't victims supposed to feel relief and safe when the officers come? And that's what we have to look at. You know, I wonder also, right, with her feeling, you know, I see her back there crying. You know, was the family asked, was everything okay when they came there? You know, if they were victimized in this situation, right, we need to treat them like victims and not victimize them again. Because a burn is a burn is a burn, you know? You can burn them for a minute and burn them for 5 and it's still going to feel like a burn. That's all.
Thank you.
I have one question, but I want to make a comment. And this to the Grand Rapids Police Department. At one time, I want to tell y'all was extremely great. We had community officers that knew everybody. Everybody. They knew who was the troublemakers, who wasn't the troublemakers. So we all worked together. I worked in one of the worst areas it was, South Fork. But didn't have too much problem. Because I always gave them a letter to let them know I would be the first one they see. The next one would be the Grand Rapids Police Department. I comes down here quite a bit with people for internal affairs. I hate it, but I do, but I still love y'all. But the thing of it is, that 12-year-old child did not pose a threat. And we need y'all to go back to a training to let y'all know when y'all threat is there, because most time I don't think you really know. And if those officers, all those officers was a year or under, I don't care how many seconds, Robert, now this is it.
Well, we will be closing after this comment at 6:30, so you can go as long as you want. But
we need to dismiss those officers right away, immediately. You have a good day.
Do till 6:30, so y'all closing it down. It's still people behind me though.
So
you getting
go
good
ahead,
at
do
this,
your 2
Rob.
minutes.
So I made a post the other day when you posted this, and like my comment ain't to like the police department or nothing. It's to the community, and you part of that. And Joe, you is, and Moody, you is, all of that. So here we is again, having another march, another meeting, another conversation, and ain't nothing getting done. You got on the news with that family, and you started all this. The chief got on the news behind you and said some slick things out his mouth against you. Y'all have a closed door meeting, and now we having a summit. So what's going to happen after this summit? The community, but they elected officials. If we talk and hold them accountable, that chief appointed, he got elected. If we hold them accountable, they'll do their job. So it's on us. We don't need Rob. We don't need Joe.
Hey, I just want to say, our personal vendettas need to stay to the side today, because this is about children. This is about children. This is about children. This is about children. This is about children.
Rob, you are not
This is
above
about children.
reproach. You are an elected official, bro.
Let's start your 2 minutes
You are an
over, so we
elected
make sure
official.
you get your 2
You are
minutes.
not above reproach, bro. You and nobody else that's been elected to sit and represent us. Because honestly, bro, you ain't been doing a hell of a job representing us.
Well, I will say anyone check my Facebook or when I called this march to see what I risk to stand up for our children. And we can't see what's going to happen until after this event. Thank you. Your 2 minutes. Your 2 minutes.
Okay,
I do have some personal things that may sometime come into where I'm at. But this is about our kids, so let's stay there.
So some of you feel Jeremy doesn't represent us, but what he said, stop pulling guns on children, 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds, girls, boys, children, period. I have a question. The CAV that's selected by the mayor and somebody else, but from where? Of what pool do they come from? It said that after incident, they're released to unoffending parents. Is that related to that particular incident, or non-offending parents? That's kind of vague. Okay. And I just want to say that, like my sister said, that you all don't understand the effects of our children, but you do. You have children. You know what trauma is. You know what happens when they've been traumatized and the result. So another mother said, what's the follow-up? So if your officers have caused this trauma, and now this child can't go to school, she can barely hold a conversation, everybody doesn't have good health care or affordable co-pays. Is there something in place where, we have victim witness programs where if somebody in the community causes a problem, there's coverage. So somebody should be covering for her to get some counseling if she doesn't have it. And then furthermore, Juanita, I don't know if she's still here, but the BB gun thing came up. I had an incident with a child in my family some time ago where it was a BB gun. It was not seen. They didn't even question for a couple days, but it was a 5-year felony. So where are those policies and procedures published so that we know? Don't buy your children BB guns. Your children can't have a BB gun in the city limits. Where is that? So all these policies and procedures, we need to know where is it so that we can go through it and know what our children can and cannot do. And furthermore, there needs to be better policies in place and how to deal with these children.
Thank you.
Just have a few comments with regards to the policy. As I looked at it, I noticed most of the policy was after their contact with law enforcement. And it was how to deal with it after the fact. And we have to be more proactive. And so what is the approach when you see a child and how do you deal with that child? Again, policy talking about being the least restrictive. Again, it is who decides that? I'm sure that's an officer discretion. Where's the training to make sure that they have the appropriate skill set to say, okay, this is the least restrictive for this situation. And then the policy under number 4 about the when safe under the totality of the circumstances. It reminds me a little bit of kind of the stand your ground. If all I have to do is say I'm afraid, where do we deal with the implicit bias that an officer may automatically bring to the job just because they see a black or brown face? We have to actually address that because they may never feel safe. And so then our children and our community is always under attack. So we have to address those things.
Thank you.
All right, I'm standing here with little John. John is still afraid. But I want John to know that, look, John ain't know me before today, but John know me today. John, you ain't never got to fear nothing, brother. You ain't got to fear the police. As long as you got brothers like me at your back, like the lady said earlier, you got to come through me first, all right? So I want you to feel comfortable to be able to speak your mind about whatever is going on with you, whatever has happened between you and the police. We want you to be able to speak your mind. Your community got your back. Can you give John a round of applause? Let John know you support him. They got your back, man. Go ahead, speak up.
Go ahead. Tell them how you feel. Tell them what you want to tell them. That's okay. Ain't nobody gonna do nothing to you. Tell them how you feel. Tell them what happened. Yeah, tell them what happened. Tell them how you feel. It's okay.
What happened was that
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
That is a problem that we are traumatizing, allowing our children in our community to be traumatized by the police department who's put here to protect and serve. right? But here's clearly a demographic that doesn't feel protected and served. I'm going to let the next speaker get up and talk, man, because I don't have anything good to say.
Thanks, Vic.
First, I'd just like to ask that everyone in attendance really share some prayers for those kids who've been impacted. It's a serious violation of their human rights, the way that these young people have been treated. But I'd like to add, though, and I think both Commissioner Womack and Chief Rahinsky should be applauded for bringing us together in this way. We know that policy generally comes about through discussions and language. Towards that end, the language in this policy is horrible. It really is. It's horrible. So I'm following Robert S. and his work as a commissioner. Certainly your words, Chief, in response to these issues, and you both acknowledge that this is a document that needs to be better, needs to evolve. I'm going to start at the point, though, to say that it's just really, really, really bad language. So, for example, I see folks out here taking notes around the policy. I've been looking at this for a while. Notwithstanding, I'm curious about how it was passed, in all due respect, commissioners. Why it was even passed. Because some of the language just presupposes that our kids are criminals. And especially, and I've gone through the document, I'd like to offer myself to any of you to help with language, quite frankly. But number two, it says, when interacting with youthful offenders. Not in one instance of the 4 times that we've made national news and embarrassed our great city in this way, were they offenders. But the policy, as written, and we can go through this with a fine comb, throughout the policy, it's just a bad written policy. So again, I'd like to offer myself to my commissioners, my community, and I think others who have written and know and who have read this policy and know it's just bad policy that we need to change. And last thing, you walk out to say that this is a great opportunity for us. It truly is a great opportunity for us that Commissioner Womack advocated in the way he was coming. He was going to be here at 5 o'clock. You know it, with people advocating. So good move, Chief, right? To say, no, Rob, let's sit down, let's do this together. So with that, I would applaud them, frankly, for pulling that together. And again, let's just look at this language. Change the policy, please. I'm done. Thank you.
All right.
So we have a couple of things. First, as a community, we don't have the luxury when we face an issue like this to be beating each other down. I certainly appreciate the work that Commissioner Womack is doing, as well as my colleague Jeremy. And I think when we are faced with such a serious issue, we really move away from the purpose when we start talking about each other. So I'm going to ask that we kind of stop doing that while we're working toward a solution here. Secondly, having been born and raised in Grand Rapids, one of the things that happens when you are, and I'm speaking to the non-black people, when you're black, what happens is people tell you how your life is, but it's not really how it is. They tell you the guns are not being pointed at you when they are. They'll tell you that unemployment is at an all-time low and you and your friends don't have jobs. I mean, this is just how it goes. And you have to understand, Chief, and all the other officers, that we see what's happening, and the smoke and mirror stuff doesn't work. And here's something more dangerous. The babies are watching, and the babies are already forming their opinion. Today is my son's 7th birthday. We've been in corners hanging out on his birthday. I said, I'm about to drop you off to Mom. He said, no, I want to go to the rally. I said, you want to go to the rally on your birthday? Why? And he said, because I want to tell them what? Tell them. You said you wanted to come. He's scared
here now, but what he told me was he wanted to tell y'all to stop pulling guns out on little black boys and girls. So we have to get past this whole thing of smoke and mirrors, and it's not really happening. When it's happening, then just come to a solution. That's all.
Thank you.
Peace. My name's Divine Reality. I'm going to be brief because the truth has already resonated through the community, and that's really what we was here for. You know, when they say insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. So I challenge the establishment to take the voices of this community today and really bring about some solutional outcomes. We talking about a policy. Soon as all of us come in, we getting hit with this paper. A paper that all of these children and all of us have absolutely no idea about as normal citizens walking through our community every day. And probably won't pay it no mind and no attention 2 months from now. But 2 months from now, if the same behavior through our police department and the establishment that's supporting it, through our county commission or our commission officers or whoever, because the real checks and balances to who got the police department in control is, say, the citizens at the top. The real people that got the establishment in these seats, it's our voice. We coming up on an election next month. When we elect these elected officials, we give them our voice, we give them our power, because we want, in these type of situations and circumstances, most definitely our voice, our children's voice, to be at every table. To be at every table respected. To be at every table protected. To be at every table nurtured. To be at every table shown and proven love from their community. Whether that's through a county commissioner, city commissioner, or police chief or police department officers. Because again, we are the ones that really got the power, and let me know if I'm wrong. By a show of hands, who's really here because we wanted a solution, outcome of action. We didn't just come here to talk. So it looks like really we came here for answers, but we got a run-of-the-mill another meeting where we just venting frustration and hostility to kind of keep the community calmed down. So that's how a rally and a march of the police station can turn into, hold it, wait, everybody come together, let's talk. But it ain't nothing to talk about. It's time for action. It's time for the establishment to recognize, like I said, a sanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results.
30 seconds.
If this is personal in our lives every day and we throw around these type of cliches, let's make it practical in our everyday lives for these babies, because they the greatest. They the future.
Thank you, Devon. Michael Scruggs, you'll be the last speaker.
I wanted to address my comments to commissioners and to our city manager. We talked about solutions to the problems tonight, and honestly, I'm tired of coming here to make comments about this issue. And I know that people in this room have been involved with this work for decades. I know that historically relationships with the African American community and the police have been strained, but I've been serving as president of the NAACP Youth Council for 1 year, and I'm already sick and tired of always coming to speak and then nothing changes. So we talk about actionable steps to take. Tonight, I think the first actionable step we can take is realize that this policy doesn't mean anything. It doesn't, because if the outcome is the same and young, black, unarmed youth are still being held at gunpoint, then the policy isn't working. So the policy needs to change. So to me, when I watch on the news and then I meet the families of the children who are affected, and the police department comes out and says, we didn't violate policy, it doesn't mean anything to me because the policy is weak and we know it's weak. It doesn't take a lawyer or a policymaker to realize that the policy was worded loosely on purpose. To me, that's what it seems like, because the same task force that developed the policy is connected to the police union. And I don't have faith that the police union is going to develop policies that holds their own officers accountable. So it's like I'm past coming here to make comments and nothing changed. So the city is going to be voting soon on how we use funds to improve public safety. The police department wants to expand the police force, and I get that we are concerned that officers are a little overwhelmed. But right now, I don't have faith that the police department can serve and protect every single community. So to me, the answer is no. We shouldn't expand our police force. We shouldn't increase a police presence in a neighborhood that already is scared of the police. We see that we don't want police in our neighborhoods because we get outcomes like this. So until we can establish that relationship, we shouldn't. So the vote should be no. And the policy should be, it needs to be reviewed before a tragedy happens. Honestly, we shouldn't wait for a tragedy to happen before we start reviewing policies. Thank you.
Thank you, young man. Thank you. First of all, I want to say I totally understand the trauma of those children. So I don't want this to be anything but the fact that I wish everybody could come together. And I do agree to look hard at that policy, because to see the young child there, the couple of them, it's so sad that happened. But also, the last gentleman that spoke said, no, don't hire more police. Okay, they want to have community involvement, and that was mentioned here. It used to be back in the day, they were in the communities. They can't do that now. We're short 75 officers approximately. Our commission has done nothing about it. It's very poor for the community. It makes it less safe for everybody in this room. So I don't want to have this taken racial at all in what I'm saying. Believe me, I don't want that, because I don't mean it to be that way. I just want the community to be able to work together, and the policing with the inner city to work for everybody involved. And I came up at the risk of, I've been called a racist before, and it's the biggest insult I could get, the biggest insult, because I am not. And so somebody's snickering, but that's okay. But I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
What I'm going to say is just going to be brief. We have a Justice Department that is run by the federal government. In the Justice Department, in the federal government, is broken down to two of the units that I used to deal with, and that's youth and adult. They call the Juvenile Justice Department, and it's a federal agency that helps and backs and calls for laws and how to protect our youth and juveniles. And youth and juveniles go from the age of 0 to 18, and only the states decide where to cut it off and what crimes they commit or anything that will take them to the next level. Instead of the city and county dealing with these, these agencies or places that can say they can come out and help you fix this problem, we need to consult with the people who makes the law and follow that law, because you got policy that don't agree with the law. And if you don't have, and then when it comes down to it, I would say, if I was these parents, and some people who know me will say, yes, she will do it, I would call them for a federal investigation. From the federal investigation, do you know we can lose our federal funding for some of the stuff that's going on? It has established a pattern. What happened during the riot time? What did they do? Call in the federal marshals. They called in the Michigan National Guards. If we can't control, if the police have a problem, who's policing the police? Just facts. Who is? So the governor will have to send somebody in here. There you go, tearing up a whole community again. If any of you was here from the riots, you know what happened. Your houses got burnt, your garages got burnt, your insurance didn't pay. So who's going to pick up the bill? If you're complaining about taxes now, I am. My house is paid for and I'm still paying taxes. Why? I shouldn't be having to pay taxes. I haven't paid for it once. So where are you going to get your money? That's all I have to say. Consult the Office of Juvenile Justice with the federal.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me. She made one point, who's policing the police? Managerially, I don't know if I should speak about policy, but maybe there's a problem with policy. I just want to mention about the mindset that I think we need to change. In this African American community, for many years, we had to deal with the police being the vanguard, the gatekeepers of our community. And we have did our best to try to maneuver through that. In that maneuvering, we have forgotten how to help the police serve us. There's a relationship that we cannot overlook. I was talking to a gentleman. I said, hey, man, we got to help the police serve and protect us. He said, hey, man, I'm not no snitch. So I had to get him to understand that there is a difference between telling and snitching. We have to help the police serve us. But on the flip side of that coin, in the police department, they need to understand the same thing. There's a difference between snitching and telling. How can we change the mindset of that cold blue mentality? If we can change that mindset, then we can get a better understanding of integrity from our police department. Because then, like the lady said, police be correcting police. Say, hey, man, that's wrong. That's 12 years old. Don't do that. So we have to find out how we can get there. Break through that cold blue mentality. Thank you all for being here, and thanks for having me.
Give it up for the entire community for voicing their opinions today. We'd like to say, but we will have a chance because we do plan on calling the community out to the city commission meeting on the 24th to definitely have the city commission address this. Few recommendations that I have come up with some of the families that are involved with this is one thing that no one under 13 would be handcuffed unless extreme on-site circumstances exist. The Terry pat down should be reestablished when dealing with people who are not going to jail, and some people might have to look up to that. Also, officers not being put in trouble when they make the decision not to handcuff children. But this is the order it's going to go. You're going to hear from the chief, you're going to hear from 2 county commissioners, and then you're going to hear from our new city manager. This meeting is different from a lot of meetings that you have because everybody that can have some effect on that change is here. We definitely needed the police department here today, the city commission, the city manager, and most important, you, the public. And I want to just, I know it's going to be hard for you to do, but I really know the community's never been in the Grand Rapids Police Department to have a meeting like this. And I know the chief knew what he was walking into, but this is what we have to go through. We want to make this community better. So give our chief a hand for opening those doors and being here to listen.
I'll be real brief. This Wednesday at GRPS on Fuller is our report out of the report 21st Century Policing. What we did was the city brought in a consultant to take a look at best practices and everything the Grand Rapids Police Department does. It's been a 12-month process. On the 24th will be your opportunity to hear their report. So please join us. In addition, this Friday from 10 to 2, I will have open office hours. I've done it before, and I want to do it this Friday again. A lot of people stood at the microphone and asked very good questions, and I would have much preferred an opportunity to engage in a dialogue, but out of respect for everyone's time, that wasn't possible. So this Friday from 10 to 2, you don't need an appointment. Show up here. I'll provide the coffee, and you provide the conversation. So again, thank you for your time, and I appreciate your efforts in making this a better community.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief. Yes, there was 11 African-American children. We'll go to Joe Jones now, then Commissioner Joe Jones, Commissioner Ruth Kelly, and then I'll be bringing up our new city manager.
I just want to say thank you for everyone who came out, whether you had something, whether you stepped to the microphone and said something or whether you didn't. I just appreciate your presence. I want to let you know that I actually hear you perfectly clear. So again, thank you for coming out, and I hear you crystal clear. Thank you.
I second that. Thank you all for coming out. I heard someone say tonight that in conflict there is opportunity, and you are being heard. We will follow up. We never go as fast as we want either, and I apologize for that. But we do want to have more transparency and definitely more accountability. So thank you so much, and we need you to help inform us.
Thank you, Kelly, Commissioner Kelly. And before we go bring up our new city manager, I did invite ACLU member Anthony Green is here today, and he can make a statement for the ACLU right quick.
We've been tracking this issue. We're looking at it very closely. Some of you may have seen last week, 4 days ago, where the city federal judge ruled that the trespass policy, where they were arresting people for nothing, for being in front of establishments, was illegal, overwhelmingly illegal, the federal judge said. So that was an ACLU suit that was brought against the city in 2013. It took 5 years for us to get that ruling out of Judge Maloney. We're looking at this issue. There has to be some indicia of reliability to these calls that they're responding to. They can't just do this based on an anonymous call. If there's no indicia of reliability, which means that there's some investigation, that some criminal offenses has taken place, and it's ongoing. Number two, to go to the level that they have gone to, federal judges all over this country, just in Kentucky, where a young man was arrested and held at gunpoint, found it to be unreasonable force. So we're looking at it. We're looking at it very closely. And stay tuned.
All right, Grand Rapids, Michigan. The last person you're going to hear from is somebody I'm going to have to put on this spot, but our community needs it, and it being Sunday. Our last speaker will be our new city commissioner, Mr. Washington, but our last person on the mic will be a new pastor at Messiah Church, Mr. Smith. I want to leave here in prayer because our community needs it. There's a lot of hurt feelings, but there's nothing God can't heal, and there's nothing that this community can't heal when they become active in the politics and policies that govern their everyday life. Right now, I want you to give it up for our city manager. I'm so proud of him, and he is here today. Give it up for Mr. Washington.
Thank you, Commissioner Womack, and all of our commissioners that are here today. Chief Jeremy, thank you for being here, and community, thank you for coming out. I know the hour is late, a lot has been said, and everyone has said what needed to be said, but not everyone has said what needed to be said until I have affirmed what I've heard. I've heard a lot of things. this evening, and I heard the voice of collaboration. I heard the voice of frustration. I heard the voice, we've been here, we've done that. Again, I couldn't sit down and not rise on this occasion to let you know that what has been shared tonight does have meaning and it does have importance because I've never heard it before. When I was hired, I was told by all 7 commissioners that one of our highest priorities was to improve police-community relations. And what has been shared tonight has my attention, my undivided attention. We came here tonight to talk about the policy and improving the policy. Along with that, there are a lot of other issues that have led to this policy discussion. You have my commitment, my unwavering commitment that we will improve the policy. Can't do it by myself. I have to work with the chief. The chief has to work with the officers in the department to make sure we have an improved policy, to make sure officers are trained on it, to make sure there's awareness and ultimately accountability for what is put in place. But we will be continuing that process. Matter of fact, I'm not going to wait. We're not waiting until the 24th. The chief and I are meeting prior to that to talk about other policies. We've already been talking about other jurisdictions. I've heard the need to improve it, and from what a 2-page policy now, we have seen other areas where there is a little bit more specificity around some of the encounters, but that is something we're going to have to work on. I want to thank you for coming tonight, and I do want to let you know that what has been said tonight has not been shared in vain. Thank you.
Give it up for our new city manager and our city commissioners that are here that are so concerned with what is going on in their ward and the entire city. Somebody once said that our unity is more powerful than an atomic bomb. So I want to say, give it up to you, the community of all different races, ethnic backgrounds, for coming together to support these children. And it sounds like we will have some movement on this policy. And Mr. Washington is exactly right. It's going to take the city commission, the city manager. It's also going to take the police chief and the police department, because what you put on paper, there's always a way around it. But we need them involved to know exactly what you told them today. We are concerned about our kids. We are going to leave here today in prayer because, like I said, this has been a very emotional event. But if you can make it through the night, is always a brighter day. Reverend Smith, would you please come up here? Leave us in 1 minute of prayer and please dismiss this community as we work to make Grand Rapids even greater than it already is.
Let's pray. Father, first of all, we thank you for the opportunity of discussion. We thank you for everyone who is assembled here. Ask that you would unify our minds and hearts in the purpose of making this city better, our communities better. More than everything, God, I ask that you would bless these young people who've been affected in these incidents. Incidents now, the incidents from the past. We ask for healing that only you can do. You're a counselor. You're wonderful in everything that you do, God. So we ask healing for those families and the individuals who've been affected by those incidents. We ask blessings on our chief, ask blessings on our city manager and all of our elected officials. And bless us as a community, God, not to come together for conflict, but to come together for resolution. We ask for your forgiveness for anything we've done outside of your will, but that you continue to keep us according to your word. It's in the name of Jesus we do pray. Let every heart say amen.
Thank you. You are dismissed.